I extend warm greetings to all of you gathered here today. Kashmir has left us with some unsettling questions once again. Some 50 deaths in 2 weeks, more than 2,000 injuries. बहुत लोग लाइन हो गए हैं इस घटना में जो चल रहा है कश्मीर में. The state was petrified to see a sea of people who gathered there in during Muralidharan's funeral. The state was petrified to see the sea of people the mourners who gathered there, and it started with series of killings, series of murdering once again. एम्बुलेंस पे अटैक किया गया है. जो एम्बुलेंस पेशेंट्स को लेके जो इंज्योर्ड है उनको लेके जो हॉस्पिटल जा रहे थे, एम्बुलेंस पे अटैक किया गया है. हॉस्पिटल के अंदर जाके टीयर गैस छोड़ा इंडियंस ऑक्यूपेशनल फोर्स. लेकिन ये क्यों हो रहा है? This problem did not start in this last 2 weeks. The problem did not start in 1989, as many of us like to believe. The problem did not start in 1947. It predates that. It's not a mere problem of law and order. The problem is not of human rights violation. It's occupation. Indian occupation in Kashmir. जो पेलेट्स यूज किया गया है, हम लोग न्यूज़पेपर रिपोर्ट्स में देख रहे थे कि बहुत सारे लोग they have been blinded for their lifetime. नॉन लीथल आर्म्स बोल के जो यूज किया जाता है, and there is this report which says that the protesters were attacked in such a way कि मतलब उनको the Indian forces intended to kill them actually. On behalf of CAFAU, we would like to tell this that we believe this is the right to self-determination of Kashmir. उसको हम आगे लाके चलते हैं, उसको ही हम मानते हैं as a front CAFAU. और ये मैं बताना चाहता हूँ कैफे के बारे में थोड़ा सा. ये पोस्ट JNU इंसिडेंट आफ्टर 9 February we made this front of some radical voices, some organizations, some teachers, students came together thinking that those who were going beyond constitutionalism, those who uphold right to self-determination of oppressed nationalities, we came together and we made this front. क्योंकि जो कश्मीर में हो रहा है, कश्मीर की जनता का जो लड़ाई है, उस जनता की लड़ाई के साथ हम लोग सॉलिडारिटी में खड़ा होना चाहते हैं. Here in the mainland of India. Why do the protesters go out protesting, knowing that they might not come back alive? Why do the parents allow their children to go out, knowing that they will come back injured? They might not come back. ये सारे क्वेश्चंस को हम शायद नहीं समझ पाएंगे. ये सारे क्वेश्चंस जो हमारे मन में हैं, शायद हम लोग इसलिए नहीं समझ पाएंगे because we did not live in the war zone. Many of us here, barring few, we don't know what it takes to live under occupation, what it takes to come back from school to see a mutilated body of my father or our fathers. We don't know what it takes to see an entire village getting raped in front of our own eyes, Uran Kushora and many other things. We don't know what it takes to go out in a park every month to mourn for those who have disappeared, who are victims of enforced disappearance. APDP, Association of Parents of Disappeared Persons, they gather every month at Pratap Park, at 10th of every month, to share their agony, to mourn their beloveds. We don't know. We don't know what it takes to bury our own children with our own hand. And और फिर जब ये चलता है, जब ये प्रॉब्लम चल रहा है, माने for decades, whenever something happens over there in Kashmir, we gather somewhere and we express our solidarity. That's all. Over the decades, the Indian occupation has left the body counts in millions over there. Almost 95,000, almost a million deaths in some decades. 8,000 plus unmarked graves. हम लोग नहीं जानते हैं, मतलब शायद इसके साथ जीना कि वो अनमार्क्ड ग्रेव्स में शायद हमारे कोई नियर एंड डियर वंस आर लाइंग देयर. We don't know what it takes when military, Indian army, security forces, they come inside your house at night 2 o'clock to pick you up. हमें से शायद किसी ने while returning from our campuses during vacation, we don't know. जो हम लोगों में से किसी को ऐसे डिटेन किया गया है. There are youths who are picked up by the Indian forces on their way home during vacation from campuses, और फिर वो disappear हो जाते हैं for the lifetime, and the relatives, the near and dear ones of those disappeared people, they wait in vain sometimes. हम लोग सोच रहे थे कि मतलब ये इस घटना के बाद जब हमने ये फ्रंट बनाया कि हम लोगों को एक साथ आना चाहिए, ये सोच के कि there has been an unrelenting silence on our part. Some left and progressive sections also, they have kept a criminal mum on this. Some even have gone far to condemn this, to condemn both sometimes. लेकिन ये कश्मीर के लोगों के हक की बात है. ये कश्मीर के लोगों के उनके राइट टू सेल्फ डिटर्मिनेशन की बात है. ये उनके पॉलिटिकल राइट है, उनके डिजायर है कि वो लोग कैसे अपने फ्यूचर को डिसाइड करते हैं. दिस इज देयर राइट, दिस इज देयर पॉलिटिकल राइट. Kashmir is not a problem of human rights violation, it's neither a problem of law and order situation. As I said, it's occupation. कश्मीर के लोग अपने फ्रीडम स्ट्रगल कैसे वो लीड करना चाहते हैं, how they want to achieve their fulfill their dream, it's completely up to them. And all of us, I think, from our front, from my organization, and everybody who are part of CAFAU, we think that we have to extend uncritical and wholehearted support to the freedom struggle of Kashmir and Manipur and Anil as well. एक तरफ जब देखते हैं कि इंडियन स्टेट के न्यूज़पेपर को बंद कर रहे हैं 3 दिन के लिए, कलेक्टिव वायलेंस, एक तरफ हम देख रहे हैं एक criminal silence from some so-called left and progressive sections. दूसरी तरफ इंडिया की तरफ से मतलब we all are responsible for this, I think. A wild jingoism that has been heard to the Kashmiris. Kashmiris are called traitors. वो तो इंडिया में इतने साल रहे, फिर भी क्यों मतलब इंडिया के अगेंस्ट को जंग करना है. Who are the traitors? Who is the traitor? Is the Indian state the traitor? Where is your promise plebiscite? The plebiscite which was promised to Kashmir. Traitor gone. एक तो जो कश्मीर की लड़ाई है, जो मतलब mean, probably we can't understand. I mean, the collective torture which will be inflicted on Kashmiris for decades, and how it settles down in the collective memory of Kashmir, and then collective mourning which paves the way for resistance. Resistance in such a way that their mere existence is itself a protest. You don't have to go out sometimes. The mere existence of Kashmiris itself is protest because you, मतलब आपके घर से आपको उठाया जा सकता है, आप बाहर नहीं जाते हो, आपके daily life, your protest, mourning, it becomes part of your content. Campaign against fascist attack on universities के तरफ से I want to reiterate that we extend our wholehearted and we extend our support to the movement of Kashmir wholeheartedly, and we condemn what's happening there right now, what Indian state is doing there right now. कल भी शायद 2 लोगों को मारा गया है। PU के एक स्टूडेंट थे आमिर नाजिर जो ईद के लिए घर गए थे, उनको मारा गया है ऐसे ही, मतलब and when the ambulance was taking him to hospital, the ambulance was stopped by Indian forces, leading to his death. हमारे साथ कुछ स्पीकर्स हैं, अब 5 स्पीकर आ गए हैं जो हमारे चैनल हैं। ये सब अपनी बात रखेंगे और प्रेस भी आ गया है। रिक्वेस्ट प्रेस टू कम एंड सिट इन द फ्रंट इफ पॉसिबल। और पहले आई फॉर सुकुमार जर्नलिस्ट सुकुमार Mishra, जो प्रोफेसर है दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी कॉलेज में, मनीषा शेठी जामिया है, और संजय का है इंडिपेंडेंट फिल्म मेकर, अनिल चमाडिया है जर्नलिस्ट, और गौतम नवलखा एंड राजिंदर सचर
event, a small gathering, but still, nevertheless, very it is important. I think the title, "Written Silence," is appropriate, and at the same time, it ignores another reality of the situation we're in now, which is that there is silence on one side. There's a deafening cacophony of noise, and this is a deafening cacophony that especially is heard in our prime-time news broadcasts, and has the very specific intent of drowning out all voices of reason and eliminating the possibility of a sane dialogue to retrieve a situation that seems to rapidly slipping out of control, slipping beyond the limits of humane tolerance. So I would start with that kind of caveat, because we need to break the silence in one arena. On the other side, we need to enforce some form of a reflective silence where people can gather their wits and figure out what direction they're heading in and what the consequences of this would be, what the consequences of the poisons. I don't understand your questions. I hope I'm audible at the back. I can't get any closer to the point. So that is the kind of challenge we face today, because on the one hand, you see the headlines day after day of people killed, of that whole cycle of violence, of the funeral, the collective mourning, the outrage, followed by the volley of bullets, and that cycle continues. We've seen this before. We saw that in 2010, with especially the present effect. It went on for 3 months and claimed 120 lives. Here we have, in just a week's time, half that deaths was already reported. So the intensity of the violence is much more severe. And just yesterday I saw a Facebook posting from a friend of mine who's a journalist there, who's been there for 30 years, ever since Gandhi has grown to adulthood on the threshold of militancy. So he's seen it all in close quarters. And he's telling me that he's never seen so many people injured so grievously in such a short space of time ever before. Like 2,000 have been admitted to various hospitals with very, very severe injuries. So there is a different strategy at work here. We saw this, a faint glimmer of this in 2010 when the pellet gun was first introduced as part of the armory, with the intent to injure and deter rather than kill. It did kill even then. In fact, close relative of one of the leaders of the new generation in Kashmir, close relative Yasin Malik, was killed in that very neighborhood by a scattershot pellet gun. So it did kill then, but now it's being deployed with much more lethal force and with much more inhuman kind of impact. So what do we get from our media? We expect, and of course that expectation should long ago have been banished, but we still expect some glimmers of truth from what we read in the newspapers every day and what we watch in news broadcasts every evening. What do we get? Let me just give you a sampling of what I have seen in the last few days. Yesterday I saw a report in Dainik Jagran that Amarnath Yatris, that is continuing, that ritual pilgrimage to the Amarnath cave. It was disrupted for a few days because of the unrest, but has since resumed. The Amarnath Yatris were stopped at some point in South Kashmir and compelled to shout Pakistan Zindabad before being allowed to proceed. Now this was explicitly denied, refused by the Chief Minister on the floor of the House in Kashmir, but the correction was never carried. So that still holds the field in terms of public appreciation of what's going on in Kashmir. And there was another report yesterday on the Indian Express website which reported that there have been 4 deaths among the Amarnath Yatris under the headline Kashmir unrest, 4 Amarnath Yatris dead. So making a direct connection between the unrest and the deaths. And of course the story itself was a fairly anodyne agency story from PTI, Press Trust of India, which said that 4 had suffered cardiac, some form of cardiac incident, nothing to do with the unrest at all. But again, if you go beyond the headline, most people see that headline, they're struck by this continuing toll that the so-called treasonous Kashmiris inflict upon innocent civilians, innocent and patriotic and God-fearing civilians in the rest of India, and they go about their business. Their stereotypes, their mental stereotypes are hardened in that process. So in that sense, you create more and more a mood that resists any form of dialogue, any form of civilized engagement with the whole problem that we're confronting. So fortunately, this morning, just as I was leaving, I saw this
very interesting article on the website. I'm sure many of you probably have seen it, but I will just read sections of it because it relates a great deal to what I'm saying, and I'm good to understand that I should speak more upon the media and both the other and Kashmir, because distinguished speakers to follow will be the aspects of this. So this was written by Shah Faisal, who 6 years back taught the civil service exam and now serves as Director of School Education in Kashmir. He was a poster boy of one sort at that time. That phrase has got an unfortunate resonance today. After Burhan Wali was referred to as poster boy of militancy. So Shah Faisal was a few days back featured on Z News, in the Z News primetime news broadcast, as the kind of exact antithesis of Burhan Wali, the poster boy of loyalty to the Indian state and how the Kashmiri is still aspiring to fulfill his ambitions, his life ambitions by serving the Indian state. And he of course saw that was not done with his consent, and he was alerted to that, and then wondered how far these news channels are going to go, jeopardizing his life and compromising his position there. So here's a few paragraphs from what he's written, which are very eloquent, and I will take the liberty of quoting from these because I couldn't have possibly put things better. So here's what he says. In the last few years, a section of the national media has been misrepresenting the idea of India and Kashmir as part of a business strategy. It has also been projecting lies about Kashmir to the rest of the country. Now, the former part of it, I don't know whether there's been a misrepresentation of the idea of India and Kashmir, but certainly the latter I entirely agree with, projecting lies about Kashmir to the rest of the country. It happened in 2008, in 2010, and 2014. So there's nothing surprising about the tilt and the timing of this debate. Almost all the programs of Kashmir right now are aimed to provoke people. The coverage is selective, and intention appears to be to compound the problems for the state government. The print media, though, has always maintained that. Now, I think that's an undeserved testimonial for the print media. I think maybe if you maintain silence, you could be considered to be maintaining balance. But I don't regard that as a particular virtue, and I don't see the print media as a balanced platform either. But we can leave it aside because compared to what we see on the primetime news channels, the print media are much sinners of a much lower order of seriousness. What made the current round of commercial savagery by a few news channels even more tragic was that they continued to promote falsehoods, dividing people, creating hatred, completely disregarding the values of democracy and secularism, even when people were dying and the government was trying hard to calm down people's passions. And did not stop even after appeals were made to de-escalate. This brazenness to market TRPs as national interest and do business of the dead bodies of young men was the worst aspect of these loud newsrooms. I think that's a very telling phrase, marketing TRPs as national interest. That is essentially the calculation that's been made that the lowest common denominator of the public discourse, which is the unquestioning jingoistic line, says. And as long as you stick to the safe options, there is no risk of the TRPs going down, and there's no risk of advertiser support being withdrawn. So in Kashmir, people often confuse the outrageous editorial policy of the national media with the oppressive state policy. And when Kashmiri representatives are bullied in TV debates, their aspirations ridiculed, their grievances shut down, the symbols of Kashmiri pride insulted, or when non-issues are given precedence over the killing of innocents. When military bravado is encouraged in civilian agony, when positive initiatives of the state government are overlooked, and the truth is not shown at all. And most importantly, when cows are made to feel more important than the Kashmiri people, the frustration and anger will expectantly be directed against them. So that essentially is the kind of media discourse that we confront on Kashmir. And what we see today is that 25 years of militancy, 26 to say, it's a long-running thing. A whole generation has grown to adulthood in this time. And people like Wani, who's killing has basically triggered this entire round. They have seen no other reality but this reality of what I call, if you go to speak to the young kids there, their vocabulary is full of terms like crackdown and torture and third degree, because this is the daily reality that they confront. And if this is the nature of the state that they are expected to bow down to submit to, we should ask what kind of future is there to be conceive of that they will be condemned to live in. I think that the only possible answer here is what Israel has in mind for the Palestinians, and Israelis put things with more clarity and brutality. So I'm quoting from an interview which the Israeli Chief of Staff, Army Chief of Staff, gave some 10 years back when the Palestinian Intifada was at its peak. And he said, we have to tell them basically that this is not going to succeed, that we have to burn into their consciousness that they are a defeated people. They are a defeated people, and that nothing they do is going to change that reality. So I saw a striking parallel here in that letter, open letter with some army person. I think his name was Gautam or something, which was floating around on the internet quite a lot. Gautam wrote to Burhan Wani saying that you should realize the futility of what you're doing. There's no point in what you're doing, because we will get you ultimately. Death is your only desert that awaits you. That there is nobody who's going to lift a finger to defend you or to support you. And as the illustration we quoted, what's happening all over the world, what's happening in Palestine, see what's happening there. They've been on the streets protesting for 60 years or more, but where have they got? What has it got them? Look at Syria. The whole country is a wasteland, it's a shambles. But there is nobody who's willing to lift a finger to help them. That they have to fight their own battle, condemn it with the full knowledge that they're going to lose it, or just surrender. So this is the kind of state attitude that is coming to play here. And what is the strategy that is coming to play here? I will again just look at the media scenario, and I will just try to draw out what possible strategy this reveals. It's not a direct association, but you can kind of tease out certain aspects of what the implicit tenets of Indian strategy in Kashmir. Now, you probably have read about the media kind of complete shutdown that happened 2 days back. 3 days, the entire media was shut down, and today they come back they're back on the newsstands. The cable news channels, I'm not sure, but probably will also resume broadcasting. Now, there's an old story that in this time of conflict, between 2000 and 2010, you had an increase in the number of media outlets, almost like tenfold in terms of daily newspapers and in terms of the news channels, the local news channels. And these are always pushing the envelope. That is part of the strategy of resistance, that you're always kind of pushing the envelope. Despite the threat that you face, the constant you're always under the threat of that axe descending on you without any prior notice or warning. But they're always pushing the envelope to try and enlarge that space for public discourse about the problems that they actually face. Now, of course, all of them are also business enterprises, so they play safe, they walk that tightrope, because they also have to get advertisements from the state government, the DABP and so on. And here I did the calculation a few years back, and there's a gross disproportion between the allocation of advertising budget between Jammu and Srinagar. It's like 3.5 times more for the newspapers based in Jammu. And although Jammu is, as we all know, a smaller province in terms of the population, But okay, that is the least of the problems that they face. The other big problem is that every time there is this kind of a glimmer of possibility of unrest, there is a crackdown, there's a suspension of mobile network, mobile telephone services. At one time, even SMS services were limited. Then it was restored subject to the ceiling of maximum 10 a day. Now it's very important in these areas, very remote areas, along the line of control and so on. SMS is a very important means of news gathering because journalists are mostly clustered in Srinagar, where the news sources from the other areas are mostly these part-time workers. They call news agents. They also distribute newspapers. They also feed the reports into the Srinagar press corps, and they use SMS to a large extent. So to shut down that service is to block the avenues of developing that public discourse. In 2010, again, the local channels, now officially, none of them has a sanction to broadcast more than 15 minutes of news in a day. But again, they keep pushing that out. They keep virtually around the clock. Whenever there's an important news break, they interrupt the ongoing program and come on with that. And they have a person on the spot. And they manage to even penetrate the barriers of security. Like I've seen one instance when Syed Alisha Dilani was under house arrest. But when that two women were found dead in mysterious circumstances in the southern Kashmir town, Chamadia, 6 years back, they went and they managed to get him, and they were putting him on the air live despite him being under house arrest. Now, so this is the manner in which they kind of keep pushing up against the resistance of the state. But subject always the danger that there's going to be a crackdown. When the crackdown comes, it's going to just silence them indefinitely. So that's exactly what happened, because then suddenly we were all shut down. We told you just below the air. The divisional commissioner of Srinagar, the minister, the chief minister, all of them came out and said, highly responsible media conduct, and if they did not allow this further. They had a commission of inquiry, which again indicted the media for its coverage of this Shofaya incident. And the judge who conducted that inquiry, when he was questioned in a public forum, said that no, he hadn't written those parts from the media. That was written by the police superintendent who was seconded to the inquiry commission. And the police superintendent, of course, said, I have nothing to do with this. Is a consensus document produced by the entire commission inquiry. So this is the kind of back and forth, the playing hard and fast to the truth that goes on in Kashmir. And what we have in terms of the vocabulary of reporting. The vocabulary of reporting is about how different perceptions can be on either side of the Panjals. For instance, I'm quoting from this instance because I happened to be there and I saw the news reports from close quarters. These two women were found dead in that particular spot. The press here reported that they were found dead in a fast-flowing mountain stream. Actually, it was ankle-deep water. It was impossible for anybody to drown in that water. And that's how the local press sees it. And the local press puts it that way. How can two women drown in ankle-deep water? So, typically, you have a failure of this kind of shared vocabulary. And I refer to classic work on print capitalism and the sense of national identity by Anderson. I don't want to get too much of an academic kind of group, but it's very important, he says, that we should have a shared vocabulary. Without that, you don't have any kind of sense of shared identity. So here's one instance where you just don't have, and there's no effort at all to bring that into existence. So when you have the kind of shouting matches on primetime TV, which are seen in Kashmir. And they have to have, obviously it stirs up, even among us here in Delhi, it stirs up deep kind of worry, deep kind of resentment. You can imagine how a typical Kashmiri would respond to that. Now, what form of resistance does he have? He can go to his local, he can write a letter to a Facebook post, and all these are very much the recourses that they seek. They want to be heard. They want to say that there's a different way of seeing things, that we are not the way you are portraying us in those news channels. So that a lot of that is going on. But then there's equally an effort to crack down on those, because every time there's a kind of prospect of unrest, there is this kind of a crackdown. So essentially, what I would say from watching this over a long period of time, not very closely, but yes, over a long period of time, I would say that the strategy here is to it's this question of society and what makes a society a society. It's not just an aggregation of individuals. It's that ability to function as a kind of coherent, organic community that makes a society a society. It's about speaking to each other, understanding each other, about sharing perceptions, about the community and about the outside world, and building your existence around these kind of shared perceptions. Now here, I think consistently for what century, you had a strategy of destroying all forms of social solidarity, all forms of social bonds within that believer community. And this is deliberate state policy, so that you will have only the state which stands above and beyond all this as the kind of unchallengeable kind of power, and there is no power to exist within society. So you have, I don't know how many of you saw that film either, but it's about setting brother against brother, and basically undermining civil society, undermining society as an organism that can confront the state with multiple vision of how to organize themselves. And in that process, what you have increasingly, as these social bonds are fraying and are collapsing, you have increasingly people falling back on faith-based networks. So the self-fulfilling prophecy that this is basically a fundamentalist religious movement gains credibility. People start actually seeing this as that. And this is exactly why I think there's a design. It's not just mindless jingoism, what you see on primetime news channels. It's not just mindless jingoism. It's about submerging rational voices and silencing the whole society, so that there is that, in that battle of voices that emerges, there will be some voices which make some reckless kind of claims and and advocate certain violent and reckless and terroristic kind of responses. So you cherry pick them and portray this as the reality of Kashmir, so that you can fuel this kind of a brutal crackdown on civil resistance in Kashmir. So I don't think that Shah Faisal's the bits that I read out were very eloquent, very well argued, and they are how a very sensitive and articulate Kashmiri would look at the crass media coverage that you see on a daily basis. But I don't think it's accidental. I think it's very much part of that design of state policy. The media and the state essentially playing that same side of the field, and essentially with the same objective, which in the long run is not just going to be released for Kashmir, but for all of us. So let me end with that. it's time to think about this. And like I said, very important to break the silence, but how do you impose a limited pause where some reflection will lead to a more considered, more reasonable, more rational response from our side. That's still something I have no ideas at all about. There are protections of free speech, but there are also philosophical positions on how far free speech can be permitted. When you are challenging the dignity of an entire people, when you are questioning their rights to exist in freedom, when you deny them any hint of justice, then that is a clear breach of the free speech principle. You've stepped over into hate speech. So that is the diet that we served up. And I have chosen escapism. I don't watch those channels. I don't know if that's the right response. Whether to watch them and then fight them it's still a response that I would like to take. But it's very isolated, and I think from that point of view, it feels great to be here because I see so many people here who share this sense of concern of Kashmir and are willing to do something about it. So thank you so much, and let's fight on and win this one. Thank you.